Good evening and welcome to this edition of A Walk Down Memory Lane. I'm your host, Earl Basden. I'm joined tonight by Coach Hatcher and Mr. Eddie Payton. Eddie, as we would all know, played in the NFL. He's the brother of Walter Payton, but we're going to talk a little bit tonight about Eddie himself, and we'll get into some other stuff about Walter as well. But we want to talk to Eddie about being Eddie and in the NFL. Coach, clearly we have a gentleman in front of us that carved a name for himself, with a brother who a lot of people talked about a lot. But some of the things we're going to hear about Eddie himself tonight, what are you really looking forward to hearing from this gentleman?
Well, Eddie, long friend, we've been through a lot of years together. I've done some great things with the NFL through Sports Inside and Out with our organization and all of the guys of the Legends of NFL alumni are real familiar with how we interact and what we do. Eddie is really the mainstay, or really the tip of the spear, I would say, of the Peyton dynasty. You're talking about two brothers who were voted the greatest running back combination of brothers in NFL history. That says a lot coming from guys like Nick Nicolosi and, of course, Jim Stig, the commissioner of the Super Bowl that we work with as well. And Eddie also is a spearhead because the Jackson State, I would say, legacy of the Peyton brothers started with, of course, Eddie first and then Walter. I mean, you couldn't beat it. They started something that was unheard of in football, particularly from a SWAC, or predominantly African American League or conference, I should say. They made, I would say, the SWAC or the HBCU universities relevant, because when these two came out, it was much bigger than the fanfare of any, I say, brother combination in the NFL. Now, that's what we talked about, Jimmy. And talking with Eddie, he is a true orator. He wears it on his sleeve, but he is a great guy to dialogue with, to express his interests and concerns. And of course, when you talk about Walter and his impact, is beyond reproach, because he's still doing things on behalf of the Peyton brothers all around the country. And for me to be part of his friendship cadre, I should say, with me and my wife and Wally and all the other guys that we do care about in the fraternity of professional sports, you're looking at a guy that if he uh, says yes, or he says something that's stern, you can pretty much say it's in concrete. He says his yay is his yays and his nose is his O's, like that Sam Jones dynasty, man. But he is truly, as you'll find out, one of the most delightful comedians on earth. But a good friend. He helps out a lot. He's coming in a great deal for our segments now, and he's coming in getting ready to make a film. God bless his soul. Eddie's got a lot going on, but let's hear from him. Eddie, our friendship goes beyond reproach, babe, and everything, include my stepsons, Dominique Wilkins, and all. The guys really thank the world of you, Eddie, and for what you've done with the Peyton name. Yeah.
Well, it was easy to step on something that was already established. Being a Peyton and playing football, Walter laid the groundwork on being the GOAT, and everybody in Mississippi knows he's the second GOAT in his family, and who really is the true GOAT.
Well, let me ask you, because whenever you have a sibling who is doing extremely well, people tend to put a lot of pressure on the other person to do just as well, if not better. Coming along for you, how did you handle that type of pressure to be able to be the person you are?
Well, one thing is I put all my trust in the man upstairs and all my belief in myself. And a guy asked me my second year in the league, how does it feel to be the brother of a superstar? And I looked him right in the eye and said, you need to go to Chicago and ask the other one. So, you know, you have to believe that you can before you can do. And I believe from day one that I could.
Sure, sure. Coach, you got a question for him?
One of the things that I do know that Eddie talks about candidly is the things they had to go through in Jackson, Mississippi, at Jackson State University, even though they were the most prominent names in Mississippi at that particular time. They had to go through some trials and tribulations to maintain that Peyton brand. And down low just a little bit. Don't get too far into it to take away from your movie now. But tell us a little, quick little elevator on how it was that you and Walter came up and still had to maintain that stoic brand.
Well, you know, we were fortunate enough to come along when we did, the early and late 60s. And in South Mississippi, you learn survival skills. Yes, sir, no, sir. Drop your hat, open the door. And we did that to survive. And when we got to Jackson State, or before we got to Jackson State, we had a high school coach who taught discipline and appreciation for your teammates. That was Charles Boston. I don't know if you're familiar with Mr. Boston, but his brother was Ralph Boston, two-time Olympian. And he taught us that, you know, it wasn't about us. It was about the colors that we played for that night. And we owed that to the people who came out to watch us play, the best we had that night. When we got to Jackson State, it was the same situation. We had Bob Hill as a coach, and Bob coached for the New Orleans Saints for a while. And he believed that no one man can carry a team. The word team speaks for itself. And we bought into that, and we did what we were supposed to do when we were asked. Sometimes a little better than the guy who played behind us, but we did what we were supposed to do for the good of the team. When we got to the NFL, it was kind of a come down because every man for himself. And we kept that, what we had learned in high school and college, through all the way through the NFL. I tell a story about Walter. He said that he plays so hard every Sunday, not for the guys who's sitting in the press box and them $5,000 seats, but for that guy who's sitting at the top of the stadium with his two kids and his wife. The only time that he'd be able to save enough money to go to a game to watch the Bears play. And Walter wanted to make sure that he saw him at his best, and every Sunday he went out to impress that guy, not those guys.
What drove you and the family to the sport of football?
It was either play football or pick cotton, and I wrestled with it a long time, and I just decided I'm gonna play football. I'm gonna leave that cotton to somebody else, and eventually they're gonna come up with a machine to make me obsolete, and I'll still have a little talent that I can use.
Coach, he talks about making that choice. Do you think it was an easy choice? I mean, talent was talent, and talent is right in front of us.
Yeah, but I mean, they were paying $1.50 a hundred. That's $1.50 for 100 pounds of cotton. And back in the days, in the early 60s and late 50s, that was a lot of money for a black man. And I don't know if you've noticed it. I am a black man, and I picked a lot of cotton.
Wow. Yeah, Coach.
Well, you know, it's interesting how the young athletes now can really learn from the experiences that the legends, and we're definitely talking about the greatest pair of running back brother combinations probably in NFL or football history. What you got here now is a man that knows a family, that knows appreciation, who knows the value of coming up hard, working hard, staying focused, and knowing what the ultimate goal is, and believes in the greatest thing that any person can have in his life is the Lord Jesus Christ. And when you get someone that's spiritually sound, and I think Max is about to jump up and do the amen on me. But the thing that is that when you get that type of athlete, Earl, and your listeners, then you have a man that's well suited to be successful and be a productive example to create a legacy. So the younger guys can pay completely frozen attention to the words and the deeds and the lives of Eddie and Walter Payton, because they went from the cotton fields of Mississippi to the Super Bowls of the NFL and never forgot where they came from. You know, so my dealings with Walter, of course, was through basketball, because he helped a lot in the things that we did in the Chicago area to help kids. Of course, Walter couldn't play a lick, so I can preach that. I don't know about Eddie, but they were always available. Him and a guy named Donnie Wolford and Denton, the guys that Eddie knows, and even I gotta say that the coach Stickett did some things that were very productive because of Walter to be involved in the African American community. Now, Eddie owned Detroit to a great degree. He was truly probably the most well-liked outside of Gary Sanders, I would say, football player in Detroit history. But he carried it along and showed the camaraderie of family, showed the camaraderie of community, race, and all about being the best person he could possibly do. And one thing, him and Walter got together every time they played before the game. And I want Eddie to talk about that nuance, Earl, because this is special too. What did y'all do? What was y'all ritual, Eddie?
Well, we had two. We had two. One was that we'd settle up, because not that I bet on football games, but the guy who wasn't as successful as the other players, a member of that team had to pay for our mother's transportation to wherever we were playing that week. And that was great motivation within itself. And that was before the 85 Bears, when Detroit was was winning more often than not. Again, for those who much have been given, much is expected. And to be given the ability by the man upstairs to do something that make people happy and not make yourself available so those people can come up and ask you questions, touch you, shake your hand, I just think it's the worst thing an athlete can do.
Well, let me ask you, because, remembering where you came from, carrying yourself in that manner, what was the learnings as a young man from your family that kind of kept you on that straight and narrow?
Well, one thing is that nobody appreciates a good day's work more than the person who hired you, your employee. And regardless of what the job is, it takes a certain amount of pride to be the best and do a good job. And that was what we learned. You don't get rewarded for what you say. You get rewarded for what you do. And if you're not willing to do the extra to make sure that it's right, then you're going to spend a lot of your time unemployed.
Sure. Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll have more with Eddie Payton. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves.
And welcome back. Eddie, take us through someone like you that you had a unique way about you, knowing that everybody was talking about your sibling, but you kept reminding them that you were the one that stood out the most.
Well, again, my philosophy has been the same all my life: better overshadowed than overlooked. And when you're always being compared with the greatest who've ever done anything, you got to be pretty good. So you got to be, confident in yourself to know that they're comparing you with the best. So if you're second best, that's not a loss. That's a
Right.
good position to be in. Other than that, I mean, what we were able to do as athletes is directly because of what our parents taught us to do as young men. Be appreciative of everything you get, take care of what you have, and give God the credit for both of
Mm, mm. Coach, you hear him talk about, especially family. It's for me that is the biggest part of being an athlete. Remembering the upbringings and the teachings that you get. You carry that through life, both on and off the field.
them. Okay, Coach, you can talk now.
Well, the thing that's so imperative about that is that we've always been, it's indigenous to the African American community, and we're not trying to be facetious in any way. Uh, the home and extended families mean a lot. And when you're into a ethnic community, or a Black American community, or any ethnic community, you'll find the importance of extended family, and it goes really to the indigenous part of our nature, is that we appreciate the love and consideration of others, that we want uh, to show appreciation to. Therefore, the love that you show through the spirit of giving and of accepting the things that you're able to do for someone is more deeply embedded in the young ethnic and African American market, I would say society, or that situation than ever, because this is the only way anyone can learn to live and survive. We made a living, as we always say, make it playing a child's game.
Mm.
So therefore, we're always going to be childlike and child at heart, even though it is an asset for us to do beyond that. But one thing for sure, the sports brand of a person will make you, first of all, appreciative of family, appreciative of others, appreciative of team, because you then know the value of others supporting, going in the same direction. So, I think that the family embedment, or entwined DNA in us, makes us more appreciative of who and what we're around. That's why today's society is so important for us, the legends, Eddie and Earl and all of us. We reach back because it's a natural thing for us to do.
Sure.
And we try to do our best to show and talk and do the things that we know former basketball or sports legends or football legends can do, because we can grab that ear. And once we get that ear, then we got an opportunity to show the impact of self, of God, self, community, and what you can do for your entire race. So Eddie proves it. I mean, he's all over the place. And not only Eddie, but all of the peers and the guys we've known all along. Eddie was one of the most dynamic guys into our NFL charities. And that's with everybody, from Jim Brown I mean, everybody. He even had the actors out there doing Fred the Hammer Williams and everybody. They migrated to Eddie because he had something about him that was truly harmonious, truly pure, purely joyful, and purely spiritual because he put the Lord in everything that he did and trying to do the same as Walter. Walter didn't go any place by talking about the Lord. And that was
Sure.
one of the great badges he wore, and that was because of his indigenous family upbringing. I guess that's a long way to say it, but special, man. So
Sure.
special that kid,
Sure.
that legend.
So Eddie, you played for several teams in the NFL. What was unique about the Cleveland Browns?
Well, that was my rookie year. I played with Cleveland, and I had the luck of the draw to play behind Greg Pruitt. And Greg Pruitt, and not to take anything from Walter, may have been one of the most remarkable running backs I'd ever seen. I saw Greg do some things in practice that I couldn't do, that Walter couldn't do, and you wonder how the hell did he do it? But he knew that I was going to be a third string running back at Cleveland. I don't care what I did because they were invested in Greg and a kid named Larry Poole. So he said, I'm going to teach you how to return kicks because that's what's going to keep you in the league. I said, man, I don't return no kicks. I'm a running back. People know I'm a running back. He said, if you don't learn to return these kicks, you're going to be an unemployed running back. And I learned every day by going out early with Greg and him showing me what to look for, what to expect, and how to prepare for it. And, it was easy after that. When you learn from the best that's ever did it, the rest of it becomes really, really easy. And
And then,
I consider Greg as being my brother.
yeah. And then you moved on to the Detroit Lions. So what is something you learned there?
Well, I learned how to be a professional there because I was there a little bit longer than Cleveland. And Lem Barney, who attended Jackson State University, he took me under his wing, and he showed me how to market what talent I had and how to be able to get out and be a part of the community there in Michigan, in Detroit, and in Pontiac. And it was one of the best, again, another one of the best lessons I ever had. When you're learning from the best, you have to sit down and pay attention. So, you don't make the mistakes that he made on his way up the ladder. And once you learn it, you can pass it down to the next generation who's going to follow you up the ladder. Sure, and that's what we have to do because basically we're all in this mess together.
Yeah. Then you moved on to the Kansas City Chiefs. So what was the learning progress through that team?
Well, Kansas City was a mature team. They had Jack Rudney and those guys and Tony Adams, and they all were professionals on the field. And they taught me how to get around all the roadblocks and traps that you would find as a professional athlete. It's really not about you. People are more concerned with what you do than who you are. In some way, you have to go out and let them meet you. So when you're through playing, they'll remember who you are a lot longer than what you did.
Yeah, right. Yeah, definitely. And then obviously the final team, the Minnesota Vikings. What was that stepping stone?
Well, you start licking your chops when you go into Minnesota because they had Bud Grant and he was a player's coach. I mean, you had an hour practice, you never hit, you never had contact. And if you were a veteran, you wasn't going to lose your position to a rookie. I mean, you had earned that, and the only way you could lose your position is just not perform at all. And, that allows you to do a lot of things. It relaxes you. You go out and you can have a bad game. You're not going to lose your job because he believed that if you ever done it, you can do it again.
Coach?
The every team that Eddie went to that we were adhered to at the NFL charities and things of that nature we did. Every team speaks the same thing of him. He was a joy to play with. He was a joy to have in the locker room. He was a joy to be the inspirational things that he was able to do on the sidelines. And he was a joy when he was running those crazy punt returns I see him do. So, I mean, crazy. He did some interesting things. So, it was a joy to everybody. And when we got together at the NFL charities and the Super Bowl every year, the many years, God bless Nick Nicolosi, Eddie, God bless his soul. He was a
Yeah,
good to us. He was a
great guy,
great guy
great
and
guy.
helped us. Yeah, he was. And he thought the world of Eddie and guys. And one of the great things I was able to hear from him is that when we talked to Carl Ella and talked to all the cats, Chuck,
Foreman.
yeah, Mars,
Yep.
and all these guys, the wide receivers and everybody, every team of the stars and mechanisms that talked about the impact that what Eddie brought to the team. They always made themselves a little bit better. That, Earl, sports listeners and fans, that shows a great athlete and a great person because in any time you get traded to a team and you just help that team be a notch better, then
Yes.
your legacy is embedded and your reputation and your brand will be that what someone else wants to be a part of. So through that, I got to commend him not only as the how much we love and respect Eddie and his family and the things he's a part of the Legends family, uh, just as impactful as his brother Walter was. So I can only say that. The people that we bring on through Sports Inside and now Legends of Sports, and of course now with your involvement, Earl, they're going to have the greatest athletes that they could ever hear, legends of the sports, but not just on the field, off the field,
Mm,
and in the community and in their lives. So
sure, sure.
it's a great thing, great thing.
Yeah, yes, indeed. Eddie, going through college, um, you're playing with your brother and all.
My brother
What
was
was your
playing with
aim?
me.
I'm sorry, your brother was playing. What would have been your? Where would you have loved to go as a professional, moving from the college ranks? What was your focus and what was your ambitions?
You know, first of all, I was the first one that graduated out of my family, mother, father, sister, and brother, out of college.
Hmm.
And my whole thing about going to college was to play well enough to get this education paid for.
Okay.
My mother says the Lord and nature will take your ability away from you, but no one can take your knowledge. So she was, if you didn't study well and didn't make good grades, you didn't play. And she came to every game. So that was the motivation in college. The fact that I played with some of the greatest athletes at any level while at Jackson State made my job easier. And we had somebody else that returned kicks. So, you know, they basically held me back, but they allowed me to do some other things. By holding me back, they helped me. Now, I thank them every time I see it. I give them credit. Roscoe Word, who became a returner for the New York Jets. I mean, he returned kicks, and I used to look at him and say, man, you got to be crazy to do that. You're going to get hurt doing that. And lo and behold, here I am listening to Greg Pruitt say, if you don't learn to get hurt, you're going to be unemployed.
Mm.
And the reason all those other guys were so happy that I showed up at those teams, because that eliminated them from the process of having to return kicks.
Well, we're going to take another commercial break, and when we come back, we'll have more with Eddie Payton. We'll be right back.
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born.
I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends. And that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
Putting down a weapons.
You seeing this?
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick, tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
And welcome back. Eddie, what was it like whenever you were going up against your brother in the professional world of sports? We see it all now whenever there's siblings playing against each other, how the media make it's the brother against the brother. Did you have any pressure in that regard?
None whatsoever. I mean, all I could do is what I could do. And the fact that who was on the other side of the ball meant absolutely nothing. I mean, the field's 100 yards long. There's 11 people on each side. You can't focus on one person or get so individual that you just want to beat him and don't do your job, because you got 10 other guys depending on you to do your job to make everybody else successful. So it didn't bother me. And, we grew up, we were roommates in college, we were roommates in high school, and we weren't roommates in the NFL, but Walter grew up knowing he was a good football player, but only the second best athlete in his family, or third if you talk to his sister.
Coach?
I don't know about that one. I believe that one. I do know one thing. Don't play golf against him.
Don't play golf.
He will skin you.
No.
Golf. Now, I do know about golf. I don't know about the others, but when he's out there, I do know about his golf game. And Eddie is one of the greatest mavericks you want to see. He'll talk you and take all your money, credit cards, and everything.
That's just Coach. Coach, I respect you. I followed you. I looked at you as a mentor. Some things you need to take to the grave with you, and if you don't shut up, you're gonna get to the grave a lot faster. I'm not gonna be able to get a game in no state in the union if you keep talking.
It's like know your secret sauce.
I blame that on Max. I blame that on my wife, Max.
Eddie knows better either.
I do know better. Look, I can tell, and I said this earlier, and I hate to repeat myself. I took one look at Max and realized you had a lot of money and a whole lot of BS.
Oh, man. Yeah, I love you anyway, Eddie. I love you anyway.
But Coach, understanding the pressure of being in a professional team, a professional setup, back in the day, back in the 70s and 80s. How did you look at someone like Eddie and how he handled it from an outsider looking in?
Well,
Oh, it was a lot of pride, I would say. Eddie was one that Walter was not a very talkative guy. He was not an extroverted guy. He could communicate if he knew you, and if he had a reason. I would say, I mean, if I'm wrong, Eddie would tell you. But Walter was more reserved. He had to feel something to do it, and then a lot of the things he took off of Eddie. Eddie was an extrovert, but he was a leader within his own. Uh, he knew his limitations. He knew where he could go, what he could do, the impact he could make. He knew when to draw back, when to exceed, to go out and do things. I was so proud of Eddie when we first time I met Eddie he was with the Browns. I was with a guy named Bug Eye, Jimmy Loftus, I think he was. We used to call him Bug Eye. He was a defensive back end during that time, and then when I saw what Eddie was doing and the things he was so capable of and the way he was carrying himself, you start paying attention to Eddie more so than Walter because you pretty much knew what Walter was doing with the Bears. But with Eddie, it was something like, hey man, did you see Walter's brother? Did you see Eddie? Before you talked about Walter. So it goes to show you how his charisma never tried to be a part or oversee anyone, including his own brother. And it was admirable because he was always speaking up for other people more so than themselves, which made him elevate himself into a whole different genre of sports and a personality. I can honestly say to you, Earl, I said a lot about the good guy, but I was blessed enough that everybody that I really love and adhere to in this phase of our life are good people, God people, and of the same swim lane. I can tell you, if someone does not like Eddie Payton or talks bad of Eddie Payton, I would tell you run and run fast because he got something bad on his mind. So he's that type of personality that everybody I know, they love him to death. From Too Tall Jones to everybody that, to Fred the Hammer Williams, and they don't get along well on the golf course. But
Coach, I
yeah,
appreciate it. Not to
yeah.
cut you
But
off.
he is a great guy. I love him to death, and I think everybody in our family from the NFL that works with this organization and the NBA knows what Eddie means to them in their lives and others. Yeah.
Sure,
Coach,
sure.
I appreciate that. I'm really not all that, but I'm going to take credit for it since you said it. I can remember the first golf match I ever played with Too Tall. It was at Nick's tournament, and we'd not met each other before. And Too Tall came by and said, "I got you for 20." We were in practice round. He said, "I got you for 20. I got you for 20, and I take the little man for 25." We started off on a par 5. I hit a driver, a 5-iron, and putted and made 3. Too Tall walked over to me as we were walking over to the next hole, grabbed my shoulder. I thought he was finna hurt me. He grabbed my shoulder, turned around, gave me $25, and said, "We just gonna play. We just gonna be friends." True story.
I went all the way to the back 9. When I was at the back 9, we were filming the cats. They came up, Eddie's arguing at Too Tall. Too Tall said, "I don't want to talk to you no more."
He was mad at you.
Oh, God.
You could have paired me with anybody, and he'd been $25 richer. Hey, Too Tall's a great guy. I mean, he is a people's person, and I mean, he's a credit to Tennessee State and all football players that I know. I mean, he's a gentleman's gentleman.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, because when one enters something like the NFL professional, you have idols. You have people that you looked up to, and people that. What is it like being in a locker room, sitting across from some of those people that you've idolized as a athlete, a college athlete? Now they're your teammate, or they're across the field from you, about to be your rival?
Well, I idolized Lim Barney for the way he played and what he did. And when we became teammates, it was like, I couldn't. He used to tell me, "Rookie, get away from me. Stop asking me questions." I wanted to know. I wanted to pick his brain. I wanted to know everything because he played a long time at a high level, and obviously he had it. And I wanted to know what I needed to do to get some of it. And it's playing against Walter and almost being traded to the Bears. When I was ready to come out, they wanted to trade me to the Bears. They actually wanted to trade both of us to the Saints, and we were going to get to play together. But that would have been the piece de la resistance, to be able to play with Walter. Or watch Walter play, because he runs 3 plays and I return 1 kick. But it would have been the icing on the cake. But I do not regret a single minute or begrudge any of the players I played with, because they were all professionals and the best at their position at that time on that team. And you look around and you leave practice smiling. You go to meetings smiling. You go to the stadium smiling, because you're finna do something that millions of people would give some appendages to be able to do for one day.
Well, let me ask you, what has been the best advice given to you as a player, and what is the best advice been given to you since you've played the game?
Well, you need to remember that you didn't make the game. The game made you. And you have to respect the game, not only when you play, but the way you carry yourself when you're out. If people didn't think you could play, they wouldn't pay to see you. And they made you as well as your teammates. So don't ever put yourself on a pedestal where you think it's about you, because the game's going to be around long after you gone.
Yeah.
Every record that's been made will be broken by somebody. And eventually you will become a memory and a trivia question. But the thing people will remember is that one time that they met you and you extended your hand, you patted their son on the back, you gave them some good advice about life, and you moved on. And that's what the game's about. Not how much you make, but how you leave it. Hopefully you left it better and people enjoy watching you.
Sure. Coach?
Well, can't say no more than that. He's, as far as an orator and a guy that does great motivational speaking, Eddie Payton is definitely on the #1 demand, or within the top 10. I would say that anyone that wants to play football and is coming up in a precarious way, that's looking for guidance, these type of things that are told to you by Eddie Payton's and all of the other guys that are of caliber and of the same, I would say, swim lane as Eddie is in, should really pay attention, because one thing we'll never do is a legend who loves what that God has done for him to be a part of this game and his community would never tell you nothing wrong. That's one thing you don't find many guys who've been through sports, professional sports at all. Very few of them, I should say. Maybe some that's nutty enough, but very few of them would tell you anything that will not be of benefit to you if you show that you want to be helped and listened to. They'll open up doors and open up your mind to great things in life, particularly those things that you're trying to succeed on. Believe in yourself, believe in the Lord, believe in yourself, yes, but surround yourselves for those that are going in the same direction or have been on the same direction as you. You'll never go wrong. That's basically it, and I think Eddie exemplifies that with his Walter.
Absolutely. Well put, Coach. Yeah. I didn't know your wife was that good a teacher. You almost sound intelligent.
He's talking to you.
Yeah, he's talking to me. Eddie?
Yes, sir.
I can only say one thing.
Yes?
Nothing. That's quite all right. We'll leave it like that. Put it on pause. Real talk.
Well,
Real talk.
we're gonna take our final commercial break, and when we come back, Eddie, I want to talk to you about your book, Walter and Me.
Yes.
We'll be right back.
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick, tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born.
I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends. And that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
Sep is putting down the weapons.
You seeing this?
Welcome back. Well, Eddie, Walter and Me, Standing in the Shadow of Sweetness. I read a bit I read a bit of the book. Putting that together, talking about yourself, talking about your family and all. How emotional do you get putting something like that together, remembering all those times as young men and having your siblings around, parents around, all of that? How emotional was that for you to put together to give people an insight of what you and Walter went through?
Well, if there's ever such thing as a labor of love, that's what that was, because I even read the book, excerpts of the book myself now. And I bet you I've gone through it dozens of times. And every time I get to a point where I start smiling, it's like Walter's nudging me in the side. So long as he's in my heart and in that book, he's never gone. So it is my escape to be with my brother even now.
Sure. Coach?
I can say only one thing. The associations that I have with all the great guys in my life. Eddie and his brother, but particularly Eddie, has been one of the more treasured things because he's know how to bring a smile to your face when you're down. If you striving a little bit too quick, he has a antidote for you to kind of slow you down. And I ain't gonna tell you all of them. Uh, but he's a fine nature loving guy. I mean, you might find Eddie on his boat. He swims. I'm not swimming. He fishes and plays golf on his answering. So that's the first thing up there. So therefore, you can say, I'm not going to talk to this guy today because he's either fishing, hunting, or playing golf. That's all he does. So, but our friendship is something that I cherish, and Wally and everybody who knows him and associated in this particular industry really respects him, and we look forward to great things with him, particularly taking over and supporting one of the great guys, Leroy Keys, one of the greatest football players of all
Cleveland
time.
Brown.
The keys to the corner, and his film is coming up very shortly. And you know the way Eddie responds with everything we do. Before Leroy went home to be with the Lord, he was with Eddie. We were talking on an interview with Eddie just about a week or two before he passed. So it's something that Eddie has, and I want everyone to know and really pay attention to what's going on, particularly Earl with your show, with the station. It is a catalyst. It is a good proxy to help all of the young who aspire to be professionals or whatever they make point to be. Get a plan, get an education first, get a plan, stick to it, and believe in yourself as much as you should believe in the Lord. So that goes without saying. I'm happy to do what I do and be blessed to not only make a living in something that I always love to do is playing ball, but also what I'm doing now, bringing the stories of the Eddie Paytons to be appreciated by the fan constituency and those who love sports, because we truly have those that help make the game what it is today. That's
Sure. Eddie, what advice do you give young people in the sport aspiring to be a professional in any sport?
Well, the same thing I tell them about educational pursuits. Be dedicated, be committed, and be patient. I mean, nothing's going to happen overnight, and nothing's going to happen because you are here. So you got to be dedicated and you got to be committed. If you're not committed first, you can't be dedicated. And if you're not patient, it's not going to happen overnight. A lot of people do things, and if it don't work out today, then they quit and try something else. You got to be dedicated in your belief and committed in your belief. And I wanted to say this about Coach. Coach introduced me to Nick Nicolosi, and Nick got me a part of something, and that saying has been with me my entire life, and it says, strong legs run so weak legs may walk. I mean, that says everything in a nutshell. I've been blessed enough to be able to run, and at that time, when I was running at charity events to raise money for kids who couldn't. And I mean, if once you realize it ain't about you, it's about what you can do to help others, then you can go hunting, ride your bicycle every morning, and play golf, because you have completed most of the things that the good Lord have put you on this earth to do.
Amen.
And thank you, Nick. And the other thing is, I've been wanting to ask you this ever since it was so eloquently expounded. What the hell does indigenous mean?
Coach, that was to
you. Does anybody know Eddie Payton? Has anybody seen him? Where is Eddie Payton? Now I'm playing my Stevie Wonder thing now, but I got a justifiable reason. Eddie Payton, where is Eddie Payton? He's a nut, boy, I say. Love him to death, boy, I tell you. And Earl, he may say anything.
Coach, you're my man from a long time. And Earl, if I can ever do anything for you guys or come back on the show, just let me know, because, I mean, this is fun. You're the first, no offense, Coach, you're the first host that I've ever been on that don't want to interject his feelings about what you're talking about. It is absolute. It's refreshing.
Thank you.
It really is. I mean, you're the best host. No offense, Coach. You're the best host I worked with in a week.
Oh, thank you for that compliment. Thank you.
Coach, keep up the good work.
Coach, here in front of us is a man who you told me about. He has a strong background, a message, and I think tonight he delivered on everything you told me he would deliver on.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you very much for inviting Eddie Payton to join us tonight, because I think young people need to hear the road which one took to get to where they are. And it's never always an easy road, but as you said, Eddie, you have to stick to it. You just can't quit if it doesn't work the first time. And I'm pretty sure we've all had that in our minds at one point in time. You know, I've worked hard, I just want to give up. But you don't give up because you always look for someone behind you who wants to follow in those footsteps. And your decisions and your choices that you make are the things that others want to strive to be. And you have to keep that in your forefront and understand that you are a trailblazer for at least one person. And what it says, each one teach one.
Each one teach one.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I appreciate you, Earl, saying that. But again, you know, if we don't help each other, we've gotten to this point because our forefathers helped each other survive, so they could teach the next generation how to survive.
Sure.
And that's all we're doing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well,
All right.
Coach.
Well, thanks a lot, man, for letting us be a part of your day here in Bermuda. And Earl is always called on if we can do anything to keep our legends relevant, to helping out the messaging that you're doing there. And you know, teamwork makes the dream work with us.
That's right.
And of course, always loving to death. He's so part of our broadcast family and my life. We love him to death, my wife and I both. He's a great, great person, a great friend. And we
I'm
adore
gonna tell you how good I feel about you. That $20,000 that you said I was gonna get for coming on this show. Hey, I'm gonna let that slide. Just do something else with it.
Hey, Earl, you see what I got to put up with, man?
I see the love. I feel the love.
Is that indigenous or magnanimous?
Has anybody seen Eddie Payton? The real Eddie Payton.
Well, again, gentlemen, thank you very, very much for tonight.
Okay.
Our spectators have been very, very entertained. And Eddie, I want to thank you very, very much for joining us this evening. Coach, we're going to talk because we have so many other things coming on the horizon.
Yeah, we do. And Eddie, go home. Get off there. I don't want to.
I am at home. That's my life. Those are my stairs. And, you know, this is what I think about.
Folks, have a good night. Thank you very much, Eddie. Appreciate you.
Anytime, guys. Anytime. Thank you.
All right.